If you are feeling lost in life, like something is missing, then I'm going to make the argument today that reading more books can help you figure out your life's work. But why should you learn something new? Maybe life is better lived without progress or merit or hard work. I mean, after all, you can't take your career with you when you die, and the books you read will not pass beyond the grave. The things you build will likely be forgotten in a few generations at best. But despite these truths, I believe that you have a moral obligation to do your life's work. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you several reasons why that's the case, help you find the thing that you're passionate about, and as always, give you a book recommendation to help you along the way. All right, let's get philosophical. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Read Well podcast. My name is Eddy Hood, and today I'm talking about why you have a moral obligation to do your life's work. Now, I say moral because when your mind is focused on a passion project that only you can complete, you're less likely to do harm to others and yourself. Obligation because at the end of your life, you will wonder if you have lived well, and you owe it to your future self to be able to say yes. The activities that make your life meaningful are going to be different than mine, and that's our first problem. So if meaningful work was the same for everyone, we could get started right away. It'd be easy. Unfortunately, that's not the case, which means that each person is going to be first tasked with doing personal research. You got to get to know yourself. All right, the first book we're going to look at today in terms of helping you find your life's work comes from Ralph Waldo Emerson. This is his essay titled Self-Reliance. It's in this big, massive book of all of these essays he's written. But he says, the power which resides in him, or you, is new in nature, and none but he knows what that is which he can do. Nor does he know until he has tried. That's on page 139. And all he's saying is that you have a special power in you, a calling, a need to do something. Nobody knows what you're capable of, and you don't know what you're capable of until you get started. So if he was correct, then only you can find that meaningful work, and it has to be done through a process of self-reflection, experimentation, being honest with yourself, having some courageous action, and of course, just constantly observing life as it passes you by. Okay, so here is my argument. Now, to do good work is to follow your curiosity with courage. It's like reading books. So when you find a text that interests you, you'll devour that book. And during that study, you'll uncover new questions which will lead to more books that feed your intellect. If you've been a reader for any amount of time, you'll know that one book leads to 12 books, which leads to 144 books, and so on. It's a never-ending quest to learn new things. But those are people who are reading by curiosity. And that line of reading is going to turn your whole world upside down. Thoreau said in Walden, one of my favorite books, that to follow your genius closely enough and it will not fail to show you a fresh prospect every hour. I love this because he's saying you have genius in you, but you have to listen to it. If you do, then you will be presented with new ideas, new opportunities, and new ways of looking at the world every hour. Most of us don't do that though. Most of us sort of shut that voice off and we submerge it in things that make us feel good in the moment, whether it's binge watching television. YouTube is my problem of choice. Some of us eat emotionally, whatever it is. He's asking you to just hit pause and maybe pay attention to that genius, and that will get you down the road. Okay, here's a fun idea from Ernest Becker's The Denial of Death. I've been talking about this book a lot lately because it's what we're reading in the book club that I host online. But here he points out that we face sort of a constant onslaught of anxiety due to our fear of both life and death. So his argument is that we yearn to reach for our godlike potential and to do wondrous things. But at the same time, we know that will require us to take risks, which are dangerous. So stepping outside of our comfort zone could lead to emotional or even physical death, which means we settle for less. And this constant sort of push-pull process is what makes us feel anxiety in everyday living. I like that argument, but I want to add to it. I think that our anxiety is heightened when we don't follow our curiosity. See, we tell ourselves that to do what we truly love would be impossible. You can't support a family on that, you might say, or perhaps, yeah, I'd love to follow my dreams, but I have kids. So what we're doing is we're tranquilizing our aspirations while our curiosity remains. And that churning in our gut feels terrible. So when we look at our own work, we wonder, what am I making? Many of us sit at a desk and process data or text. And at the end of the day, it can feel like all we've done is manage our emails. This doesn't make our work meaningless. We just need to discover our product and determine, this is the important part, if it's valuable enough to dedicate our lives to its production. In general, no matter your field, you must think of yourself as a builder, using actual materials and ideas. You're producing something tangible in your work, something that affects people in a direct and concrete way. Now, this is a quote from Mastery by Robert Greene. This is one of my favorite books because it's the first book I read carefully in my life, and I absolutely love what it has to say here. Mr. Greene says, to build anything well, a house, a political organization, a business, or a film, you must understand the building process and possess the necessary skills. You are a craftsman learning to adhere to the highest standards. For all of this, you must go through a careful apprenticeship. You cannot make a thing worthwhile in this world unless you have first developed and transformed yourself. So in that quote, that's on page 64 here, he's suggesting that you are making something with your life. And to do it well, you have to actually go through and get training and apprenticeship and work your way towards mastery. Now I want to go back to Walden for just a minute with Henry David Thoreau. I think this next point in the argument is crucial to helping you find a career or work that you love. Because in Walden, Thoreau worried about his freedom. He argued that working all hours of the day just to incur debt that he could barely pay for leads to a life of what he called quiet desperation. And I've always taken that quote personally. I mean, I have debt. I've worked endless hours. Does that mean that I'm failing at life? Maybe. Thoreau considered the cost of a purchase in terms of life lost. You can find that on page 44 of this edition. So for example, if you want to buy a new ski boat, which starts at $150,000 these days, and let's say you make $45 an hour. Well, you're about to give up 3,333 hours of your life to get that thing. And that doesn't even include the interest. Thoreau would ask you if that's worth it, and only you can answer that question for yourself. But this idea of working for toys is critical because our greed encourages us to climb the richest of corporate ladders. We analyze positions and jobs based on their annual salaries rather than the meaning they bring to our lives. And for most, once they get their coveted boat, they never have time enough to enjoy it. I mean, anyone with a boss knows that you can never truly go on vacation without secretly checking your emails. We all have a boss, including business owners like myself. We have to keep our customers happy at all times. So you may ride that boat a few weekends of the year, but you've traded your freedom to do so. Wouldn't it be more enjoyable to do work in line with your curiosity? I mean, you might take a pay cut and you might never have that ski boat, but you will have something that the massive men do not have. You'll have life without quiet desperation. Okay, we're gonna wrap up with a quick story from James Clear's Atomic Habits, and then I'm gonna give you this week's book recommendation, which I think you're going to love. So once you've made the commitment to follow your curiosity and you've accepted the truth that it's gonna be hard work, but once you've made that decision, there's something you need to understand, and it's found in this book, Atomic Habits. So here, James Clear tells us the story of the British cycling team, who was the worst cycling team in the world. And they hired a gentleman named Dave Brailsford to get them in shape. So Brailsford had a philosophy called the aggregation of marginal gains. And all that means is it's a philosophy of searching for tiny margins of improvement in everything that you do. And his approach led the team to gold medal status in the Olympics. It simply takes time. So yes, start today by asking yourself, what am I curious about? Follow that curiosity, even if it means taking on a different career, going back to school. In fact, I'm going back to college this summer to get a degree in philosophy and a minor in English literature. I'm so excited. You might even have to confront your boss. The work that you do matters, and when you leave this earth, you'll be grateful that you had the courage to follow your heart. So again, you have a moral obligation to work this way, to find work that fulfills you. By waking up each morning to a task that excites you, you'll be less inclined to do harm to yourself or others. And at the end of your life, you'll be able to answer in the affirmative, the only question that truly matters. Have I lived well? Okay, let's get to this week's book recommendation. I would like to send you to Peak. This is The Secrets from the New Science of Expertise by Anders Ericsson and Robert Poole. This is a book that sort of scientifically, in fact, I'm going to read Seth Godin's quote on the back because he sums it up better than I can. He wrote, "This book is a breakthrough, a lyrical, powerful, science-based narrative that actually shows us how to get better, much better, at the things we care about. And that's what we're talking about today. Once you've identified the thing that you love, the thing that you want to dedicate your life to, Peak is going to walk you through something called deliberate practice. I used to play guitar growing up. I was going to be a musician, and I would go in my room and I would play guitar, and I practiced for hours and hours and hours. What I found is that I wasn't really getting any better because I kept doing the same thing mindlessly. I was not doing deliberate practice, which is the art of sitting down, crafting a plan, pointing out your weaknesses, honing in on those weaknesses, and doing what Dave Brailsford did, which is to make marginal gains every day. I just played guitar, and now I'm not a professional musician because of it. So if you actually identify your work, and then you want to become the best, Peak will help you get there. This is a great book. Hey, if you found this week's episode helpful, I'd like to encourage you to go to thereadwellpodcast.com, and you can subscribe to the newsletter there. Every week I write personally, no AI included. It's all from me, heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears, all of it. And I'm sharing ideas on how to be a deep and careful reader. I also give a book recommendation that's meaningful to me and the community. So if that's of interest to you, it's absolutely free. Go ahead and go there now and subscribe. Thanks again. And as always, remember to read slowly, take notes, and apply the ideas. I'll see you next week.